even in the educational. And a few shows ago, I tried to remember this word, and I couldn't remember it. But what I was trying to say then kind of fits now, because if you look at an educational institution, which is what they're referred to in studies, are institutions. Okay,
Right.
and if you look at the meaning of the word institution itself, it has no place in an educational system, because an institution is meant to reform or rebuild or retrain, or to train or teach, but not in an educational way. It's in a conditioned way. It's social conditioning, and it's really ironic that you have correctional institutions and educational institutions. And what I was saying then on the other show was, that they're similar in a lot of ways, because, you have guards and teachers, which, yes, there are differences, but they're both the head figures in both institutions that have to be followed. The rules have to be followed, which we have rules of society that need to be followed anyway. Morality-wise, we have rules. But when children are being raised in an institutional style environment, that stifles an individuality. They want to keep students nowadays, especially in America, I think, it's like an assembly line. They're trying to give everybody the same ideals, the same values, the same morality, and it's not so much their ideals or morality or personality, but it's what the schools try to instill in these children from the time they're 3, 4, 5 years old. And the same thing goes with religion, with different religions. When kids start going to Christian school, or the Sunday school here, and they're 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, and they don't hear anything about any other religions, I think that that's why I think what Dr. Visotzky's his work is so important. I think a lot more attention needs to be paid to it, because I think if a lot of these churches, the different denominational churches, and myself, I'm not afraid to say that I don't believe in denominational churches. Religion is not denominations. Denominations are money, nickels, dimes, quarters, and pennies.
Right.
So I think what a lot of these the denominational churches and a lot of religion needs to really start doing is along this line, and along the same line as what Building Bridges supports, and that is reaching out and building bridges to others and learning about others and communicating and realizing that we are all one. And the only way that's going to happen is for people to do, not your neighbor or not your sister or not your aunt or not your teacher, for you, the people listening to this, to go out and make contact with other religions and talk to people and dispel some of these rumors that are all over the place about every religion. I really had not expected what we had got when Dr. Visotzky came onto our show. Because I think the rabbi's ideas are just awesome. And I think what they're doing is awesome. And I hope they do spread this around. He's I just really enjoyed our interview with him, and I agree with you. I would have liked to have asked him a few more questions. Especially things like Darwinism and the theory of evolution and stuff like that. And I hope we can get him on again.
It's interesting that you mentioned institutions and institutionalization, and kind of taking the mind of young people and filling it with ideas that are maybe beneficial economically, but are we have to question, are they really beneficial in the long run for the individual? Like, for example, you also mentioned evolution and Darwinism, and there are interesting links between. Think about it. If one is taught that they are they've kind of appeared here on Earth through chance mechanisms, and that they're a species of an animal that's developed, and they are just that. And explanation of life and creation is done through naturalistic means. Then essentially what you're doing is you're I thought this was interesting because I've read this and I want to share that, is that you're essentially what you're doing is that you're shutting out the Creator or God, and you're telling the young mind who might be in high school or early college that you're basically an animal, and that you're going to have to survive just like animals do in the world by competing and doing what you can to survive. And if you can, essentially it boils down to social Darwinism. That is a representation of how I feel that our society is kind of using that as a model. But why are we in that model? It's because at a young age we're taught that this is the science that is proving that we are these animals, that we have to survive, and that our lives really don't mean anything. So it's fine. I mean, it can be taught, but it should not be taught as a fact. It should be supplemented by allowing other people to teach religion and creation and faith, because we are in a democracy. But Darwinism and socialism are essentially operated and run at the state level, so that if you're a professor at an institution or wherever it is you're teaching and you speak out against that, you're basically ostracized. You're outcasted.
Oh yeah.
You may be even fired from your position for speaking that way. So it's become to a point where we have to basically accept that the Darwinistic model is the correct one, and this is how we should predicate our lives around that. And so what happens is you have a deterioration of values, because now you're operating on a selfish level.
Yes.
So the ideas of sharing, compassion, forgiveness, kindness.
Well, even Darwinism, though, Darwinism itself teaches, and I don't mean to be redundant in my wording, but Darwinism itself teaches self. Yes. I mean, it's me, I. Right. What can I get? What can I do? What about me? What about me? And that is, for anybody to think that a world of people can survive with the idea of me, mine, and I, that's ridiculous.
Right.
And
it's easy to justify, it's easy then to justify the strong oppressing the weak, because after all, isn't that the model? I mean, the strong survives and the weak perishes. So then it's like, okay, well, if the strongest country wants to go and destroy the weakest country or a weaker country, then it's almost like, well, that's just the way it is. We really are. We can't consciously say anything about that. But in fact, everyone has a conscience. Everyone knows that doing something like that is just not justice. But the point is this starts out at a very young age, and we are institutionalized to believe certain beliefs, and
of course
you grow up with that, right?
Yeah, social conditioning.
Yes, right.
And this has been proven. There's been studies done, on social conditioning, and it's a means of bringing a population under control to persuade them through conditioning, through prolonged exposure to whether it be education or action or, even the media, kids watching cartoons, for years. I mean, when I was young, we watched, stuff like Sesame Street, and I don't remember what I've really never really been a big cartoon watcher, but we didn't have stuff, today like they have. and a lot of the cartoons that you see, if you're not careful, I mean, the morality in some of the stuff that these kids today are watching even. And this is another reason, we can go right back to Dr. Visotzky's work, is bringing these religions together and getting people to work together and trying to revitalize faith. Because when you take people's faith, you take their hope.
Right.
And when you take hope away from somebody, you know, the only other person they have to look to is somebody above them. And if they can't look to God, then who are they going to look to? Of course, they're going to look to a government.
That's right. That's absolutely true. When you don't have your own hope and self-determination as far as your Creator, then basically you live by the rules of the society that you live in, and you answer to those rules, and that's that. You know, so no, I think that the work he's doing, I would have loved him to get into, you know, some of his thoughts about Darwinian theory and models. You know, that we could have got some interesting insight from him. But that model is actually can be applied at many different levels. You know, that is reflected within a society. You can have it at the country level. You know, you can have it at the country level. You could have it at the government level. Even in homes. I mean, absolutely. From family. Even in your house, right? Yeah, families, neighborhoods.
You know, when a child does something wrong, you have a family. You know that you know, because each family may have their own values. But when you're raising a child and they do something wrong, the manner in which you correct them, you're teaching them. You know, so you're not just punishing them for doing something wrong. You're teaching them. And if they grow up, you know, I do believe spare the rod, spoil the child. My kids got whipped when they were little. But I can tell you this, after they were 4 or 5 years old, I never had to raise a hand at my kids. Because if they got in trouble and I swatted them, I would sit them down. I would talk to them plainly and clearly. And until I knew they understood, we wouldn't move. If it took me an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, I made sure they understood. And the thing of it is you know, society itself and the educational system, public educational system, and the media and newspapers and outside influences, you know, it is really hard to pass good values on to your children when they're going to public schools and involved in a culture that in many ways in today's society does not look to faith. You know, they look to popularity, or they look to monetary gain, or they look at sports, or you know, there are so many distractions.
Well, you know, the idea is that, you know, we should live in a society that's secular, meaning that, you know, we should allow people to study many different things and not force people to believe, you know, in such things as Darwinism. And mind you that, you know, there's nothing wrong with teaching Darwinism, except, you know, the science behind it is not really explanatory.
Teaching Darwinism and conditioning Darwinism are two different things.
It's two different things. Absolutely. That's exactly my point. I think you said it very well, Jerry. So, you know, that's the whole idea. But we're not against having a secular government where we have true democracy and people can live together as brothers and sisters, and you can have all kinds of different faiths and people that believe. And I think these are the values that the founding fathers were predicating, you know, the country upon. And I think somehow,
of course, yes,
gotten lost, you know, along the way, and it's to the point where there's almost no justice out there. And you know, if you're privileged and you have connections, then essentially you know, you're kind of immune to the system.
Yeah. When you know, and it's not a myth that those with enough money can buy their way out. That's not a myth at all. because if somebody that is not working and they have a family and they're doing the best they can, and something happens that they get in trouble, whether they meant to or not, the fact is that if they get in trouble and they're living paycheck to paycheck and they get a couple $1,000 fine, that's enough to sink a family that is poverty level. Now, if you get somebody that is privileged and they don't even have to, not even maybe their mom and dad were rich, or maybe they make good investments or whatever, but the point is not how they got there. The point is that if a person making $200,000 a year gets a $2,000 fine, they can write a check and the judge will say, okay, see you later. Now, if the person on the other hand makes $10,000 a year, they get a $2,000 fine and say, well, I have to make payments. They say, okay, well, then we'll let you make payments, but if you don't make them, we're going to throw you in jail. We're going to put you on supervision. We're going to put our noses into your life every day to know where you're doing, what you're doing, how you're doing, why you're doing it, where you're doing it, and when you're doing it.
Right.
But if you want to just pay us the $2,000, we'll let you go and you can just be on your merry way.
Right.
So yeah, that is definitely, there's definitely differences we have here, which I guess we might want to save some of that for another show.
Absolutely.
Because that is a show. This is as I want to get into Higgs boson at some time, but not right now on this show. The God particle. So I'll say one thing about it. Okay, they try so hard to prove there's a God particle, but they spend $10 billion or whatever it is on this machine to make this particle. So what makes me wonder is, how did the universe create this machine to create the Big Bang? Simple question.
Yeah, absolutely. So
okay.
with that, I think we'll have some very interesting shows in the future about those topics, and certainly, we've had some exciting guests so far. I think going forward, we still have some very, very exciting guests coming up on the next few shows. So I hope our listeners enjoy, the Building Bridges radio show and commentary. And for those of you that certainly want to help us and want to be involved, please let us know and get in touch. We're on the internet, and you can be a part of trying to make a change for the better for everyone in a peaceful way.
Of course.
And that's our goal for everybody. So I hope everyone has enjoyed the show, the broadcast, wherever you are and whatever time you're listening to this. Certainly I want to thank you, Jerry, for joining, of course. And we will, I'll let you say anything, any last words, any comments?
Well, I just really like to reiterate again our thanks to Dr. Visotzky for coming on the show and for giving us his insight and answering our questions. I think what they're doing, as far with bringing the different religions together. He's the director of Milstein Center for Interreligious Dialogue and JTS. I think that all of them really need to be shown some respect, because what they are doing is just awesome work, and bringing people together and helping to spread the message, that we are all one family. I think is one of the most honorable things, and I'm just really grateful that he was here.
All right, beautiful words, and I also want to thank the doctor, and that'll do it for our show. So have a wonderful day or evening wherever you are listening, and this is our show brought to you by WTPN, Building Bridges, San Francisco. I am Mark Massini, here along with Jerry Davis. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.